Hi everybody, it's Donna Fisher, and today is Thursday, March 26, 2020, and I came out here into the forest to ground myself, to get some information from Spirit. Although I can do this at home, I just find, particularly at this time, it's just so much more important to keep grounded. So I'm not too far from my house. I found this spot the other day by accident. I should say there's really no accidents in the universe. There's a little stream behind me here. And lots of bugs, which it's okay. I don't mind the bugs too much, except when they fly in my mouth. You can hear the turkeys in the background, which kind of makes me laugh sometimes, just the sounds that I hear, the woodpeckers, the birds. There's not one cloud in the sky. It's just a beautiful day. So I wanted to bring you in, and hopefully you can feel some of my energy and some of the energy of this place, because there's really no one around. There were some teenagers that kind of walk through and they're like, oh, I didn't see you, but I didn't even start recording yet. Probably kind of whispering, to themselves, like, the hell is she doing? So I was going to come here with an agenda, like with information or something. I was thinking of what can I talk about, because I've already covered a lot of things in my last two videos. And if you haven't seen them, I would encourage you to watch those. It's about the situation that's happening in the world with coronavirus. I also put out a couple guided meditations. They were the first ones that I've ever recorded, so bear with me. And if you have any comments to make or suggestions, I would be open to those. I brought my little singing bowl here, which I already played before I started this, before getting into my Zen mode. I have my crystals and my frankincense, and I have my Palo Santo, which is, if you guys aren't familiar with this is a kind of almost equivalent to sage. It's from a tree from South America, and it's supposed to clear the energy and cleanse and detox your spaces. So it's really, really good to cleanse your house with, especially if you work with a lot of people, or especially during this time, to clear your house. And to also, it's got a great scent to it, and it's not as strong as sage. So I really, really like this. I think you could buy this online, probably, because you can't go really out to the stores right now. So I'll leave information about this at the bottom of my video. But as far as the crystals go, I've been doing this just to kind of give you a little bit of a background. There's some people coming, but hopefully they won't come over here. I've been on my spiritual awakening. I've been really awakened, back in 2012. I was always a very sensitive person, sensitive to energy, even as a young child. I did not realize that's what was going on in my life. I didn't figure all this out all at once. I was always interested in another dimension outside of ourselves. I was always interested in and fascinated and intrigued by things that we can't see. So I've always felt like there was something beyond this physical space. I was always in tune to that. Sometimes I blocked it out, especially when I was younger, because I worked as a nurse. I've been a nurse since I was 20 years old. And I worked in a busy level 1 trauma center in Philadelphia. And we saw all sorts of things there. And it could be very difficult for those of us who are very sensitive to energy, not realizing it, how we absorb so much. So, when I turned 40 years old, that's kind of when everything started for me, the shift started for me. and really focused myself on growing spiritually, tapping into inner guidance, my soul, and really expanding myself. It was a very difficult time for me because I did go through a lot of changes in my life. There was a lot of situations that occurred in my life that I dealt with. Being that I was ascending in my energy frequency or vibration or whatever you want to call it, I was no longer in alignment with certain things in my life. I was married at the time. I ended up getting divorced. And I did a lot of soul searching. I did a lot of inner child healing, and spent a lot of time in solitude and also work. So it's not like I didn't work. I still worked, but I found ways to be able to balance my job and work on my spirituality at the same time. And spirituality to me is also energy. So anything that we're not seeing in the physical, to me, is spiritual. And we can kind of interchange energy and spirituality. I feel it's very similar. I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but it's very similar in my eyes. So anyway, after I went through my shift, and as I'm going through the shift, because this takes a while, I found ways to balance myself and balance my energies, and discovered, that the importance of balancing masculine and feminine energies within us, because balance incorporates a lot of different things. And I'm going to write something about that, so I won't go too much into it. But balance, there's balance in the physical world. It's balancing work and pleasure. There's balancing, your personal life with obligations that you have, like in your house and as a parent. There's also, balancing, your mind, body, spirit, and being able to incorporate, spirituality into your everyday life. And they kind of go hand in hand, because if you try to live one without the other, it will not really it won't feel right. It's not going to be right. So if, let's say, you have somebody who is more, and I'm sure you've come across people like this, and hopefully you see that I'm very grounded. I'm not someone who is, all over the place, flighty, because there are people out there who are in the spiritual community who aren't very grounded, and they can come across as, kind of being out there, let's say. And I know that anybody who knows me personally probably recognizes, or, yeah, okay, I'm a little bit unusual. I think we all are, and that's okay. But I'm very grounded. I can be very logical. I can be very sensible. I know how to balance between, using my mind and also tapping into energy and tapping into my intuition and the soul. So I can balance all of that. And that's when I say grounding is very important, especially for those people who are on the spiritual path. If you're just starting to awaken, you can get really pulled in, especially when you're rising or ascending in your energy frequency. You can become unbalanced, and you can it's almost like you may not be living in your reality in this physical space, because you have to, we're still here, obviously. We are here for a purpose. So you have to be able to navigate your spirituality with your physical life. So I think there was other stuff about balance I kind of channeled last night, but I will write something separate about that. So anyway, just wanted to give you a background about me and my journey. And I guess, it is a process, just like anything else. I didn't become really balanced, like really, really balanced, probably I'm going to say maybe 2 years ago. So it took me 2012 to 2018, that's 6 years to be balanced. But again, I was going through my own things in my life. You know, endings were occurring. I also found that there were a lot of friendships that I had that I no longer aligned with. So those were kind of falling off. I also found myself, again, very, you know, I did balance between the two of being a hermit, like, you know, really kind of pulling my energy inward, and also coming out into the public and being around other people. But I have to say that in the beginning, I needed more time to be alone, to process things that I was going through and healing. I did do a lot of meditations, inner child healing meditations that I found on YouTube that were very helpful to me. I also found a book, came across a book. It was called Codependency No More. And there was also another book that I believe it was The Journey from Abandonment to Healing. So a lot of things that get triggered by relationships that we have, especially if you come across a soulmate relationship, or a twin flame, or somebody who you have a deep connection with, it does and will cause things to come up and surface in your life that they trigger. So I found that I was going through my own triggers and my own healings, you know, and a lot of these wounds we've carried from childhood, you know, depending on how your childhood was. And some of these wounds are also ancestral, you know, generational patterns, things that we may be unconscious of, that we picked up from our parents, or even not knowingly, we picked up. It's kind of like in our DNA, it's in our bloodline. So, and if you don't believe that, I mean, there's been plenty of studies out there that have shown how trauma affects, you know, children. Like if a woman was pregnant and they've gone through a traumatic event, such as the Holocaust, I believe they've done some research on that. It does affect the children and their children and the children after that. It's in there. So it's also like that. It's in the energy, and it's just like a part of you. And you may not even know that, because this is going like a lot of generations back. So anyway, there's a lot of struggles that we have, or a lot of trauma and a lot of woundings that we have, that we come here with, that can be displayed in our relationships and with our own self-worth and self-love. And sometimes you don't realize that or recognize that when you're just living day to day, and, you know, like everything's, you know, status quo. Things are comfortable, you know. Your typical day might consist of getting up, going to work, or taking care of the children if you don't, you know, actually go out to work. Coming home, paying the bills, putting the TV on, you know, watching the news, talking sometimes if you feel like it. I mean, we've lost a lot of connection, you know, because people have been so driven by society and about what they were taught was important. You know, it was important to have, you know, a husband or a wife, or, you know, for to have children with someone who shared your beliefs or religious affiliation. Status was important, you know, things of that nature. And also, you know, having a good paying job and making sure you get the bills paid, and, you know, having that white picket fence and all that, you know, a lot of material stuff. So it's no fault of anybody that, you know, things have been like that. It's just the way it was. So now, with everything happening in the world and this big wake-up calls kind of come down, it's giving people a chance to really focus on what's so necessary and so important. And things that I've already been through to be able to get to this point of feeling at peace and balanced. And I'm not saying that I don't go through my stuff anymore, because I am constantly evolving, just like everybody else in this world, constantly, you know, and trying to, and still having to balance, because when you get these big events like this, I mean, it tests your balance. It tests how grounded you are. It, you know, especially when you are in a profession that you're more likely to come across all these, you know, sick people, and being in healthcare, it's, you have to be able to protect your energy and find ways of, when you come home, to make sure that you are, you get yourself in a good place if you don't feel like that at work. So anyway, I think that there's going to come a time and place where people are actually, I think people are still resisting this in a lot of ways. But I think there's going to be a time that you won't be able to resist anymore, and you really have to figure out kind of a way to be able to get that peace and feel grounded, and really self-employ yourself to know what is actually important in life to you, and what connection, first of all, you have to have a connection with yourself. Okay, because you can't really depend on somebody else to have a connection with. You can only have a connection with somebody else, and I'm going to talk, and this is all forms of relationships, but particularly those that are you're romantically connected with. Your level, your connection with the person, they can only mirror the same connection that you have with yourself, if you are attracted to each other and in alignment. So what that is that you cannot try to find somebody that makes you feel good, because that will be all temporary. You know, you have to find somebody. I mean, I'm not saying finding somebody, okay? It's not like you want to search somebody, but the proper way of having fulfillment in a relationship is going to be finding the connection within yourself first. You have to be connected to yourself. You have to know your faults. And it's not really a fault, but this is, you know, again, this is the way we're programmed. You have to love every single piece of you, part of you. It's not really a fault. You know, it's, you know, they call it shadows. It's kind of doing that shadow work. It's doing that, that inner healing in order to get to a good place, because, you know, what happens often, and what's happened before in these relationships that weren't based from the heart, is that you would find somebody, be attracted to that person, and after a few years it kind of fades. Okay, you're just not in alignment anymore. I mean, it's, you know, you kind of get caught up with the day-to-day stuff as well. So these relationships were not something that, I mean, it served its purpose at the time, but now we're kind of evolving into the next phase of relationships. And that means that you have to have a relationship with yourself first. Because nobody else can really 100% fulfill you, and nobody else, it's not anybody else's job to do that. It's your job to clear your wounds, balance yourself, balance your energy, get into a good place of self-love, and then the right person is attracted. You will come into alignment with that person, that soul that you were supposed to spend your life with. And it's happening. It's happening. And I didn't want to make this about relationships. I didn't, but it's kind of flowing that way. So I'm just going to go with it. I am very big on having a relationship within yourself, with yourself. So it's going to also, going to play out with relationships with others. So, and you get to a place of being happy, you know, on your own. And it doesn't mean that you don't want somebody else to spend your life with. I mean, it's always fun, more fun when you're with somebody that you are in alignment with. But it doesn't mean that it takes the place of your connection within yourself first, of the relationship that you must have with yourself and the love that you must feel for yourself, and not accept anything less than what you deserve, and not accept anything that's less than what you feel you're worthy of. So it's sometimes that means that we have to be on our own for a while. And I've been on my own for a while. So I know that it may not take people that long, that, you know, having to be on their own that long. I mean, I've been on my own for a while now. But I guess 7 years, if you're really wanting to know. But that doesn't mean I was alone. That just means I was not, you know, with somebody else in my life in a regular, you know, relationship, you know, boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever have you. And I worked on my own, energy and my own healing. So anyway, with that, I think I was starting to pull some cards to kind of see what else, you know, needed to be said. But I want you to see how I do this, because it's not like I randomly just, like, you know, pull stuff out of the deck to talk about. It's just like I was shuffling and this card came up. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do this while I'm talking. So anyway, what I mentioned here is this card came out, and it's solitude. So just what I was talking about. It's taking the time to be on your own and doing a lot of inner work, a lot of healing, a lot of introspection, meditating, and taking care of your own energy and taking care of yourself. And see the water that's around it. Like I mentioned this in my other video, that being around large bodies of water will help you ground. And sometimes this also could mean that a lot of people are feeling lonely. You know, that there's a lot of, you know, it's like this tower here is on this, it's like this barrier island here, this island. And it could feel that way right now because, you know, of the stuff happening that we have to social distance and we have to quarantine ourselves right now. But this is giving you an opportunity to explore yourself, to figure out who you are. And I know, like, people have young kids and stuff and they still have to take care of their children and stuff, and they have to work from home sometimes, or people are still working if you're essential, but you have to make the time, because this is one of the reasons why this is happening, is so you get to know who you are. And you spend some time on your own and, you know, explore yourself more deeply than you may have had a chance to do before. You know, when you put the kids to bed or something, take time to yourself. When you come home from, you know, a busy shift, take time to unwind and not be around anybody else. You know, when I first started, but like a couple years into my journey, I found it very difficult sometimes to be around other people. So I had to kind of go into my own little place. So I made myself a meditation room. And when I wasn't working, sometimes I spent hours in there. And sometimes it was just, you know, just silencing my mind and closing my eyes and being away from everything, you know. And I was very fortunate that I had the time to be able to do that. So, let's see what else comes up. And it's Ghostlands. And that just flows right into this topic. This is frozen in time. I mean, it's a clock and there's ice all around, and it's like there's nobody around. Everything is frozen in time. And there's like 2 doors here, if you could see. It's almost like I feel like there's got to be a choice, that it's giving people the opportunity to make a choice, is what I'm getting from this card. It's giving you an opportunity to choose during this time, because everything's at a standstill right now. You may not feel it right now. I mean, you may feel like you do have a lot more time, and use that time wisely. And that could be just one choice of using your time wisely, but it also, I feel like it could be a choice. You're going to be presented a choice of which direction you want to go into. And it's like the stairs are going up. So it is a part of raising your energy and raising your energy vibration. And you'll know if you are faced with a choice to really also take the time to sit with it for a bit. And I believe I said this. Yes, I said this already in my first video, is not to make any kind of major decisions during this time that we're at, where like it's like everything's kind of like shut down, you know, and kind of frozen in time. And again, I'm going to say everything, but it's not, you know, because there's things that are happening in this world, like those people who are working in the hospitals and healthcare and stuff, that we're still having to do our parts in being out there on the front lines. So let's see what else comes up. And we get this card here. Details. I think it kind of goes what I just said. And there's a magnifying glass in this picture. I don't know if you see it, but it says clarity on here. Everybody's still like so consumed with thinking how this is going to affect them, and how is this going to affect them financially? How is this going to affect their lives long term? And there's a lot of busyness about this in a way, even though many of us are in a quarantine situation, there's still a lot of details and a lot of thoughts. So to me, this is kind of like the mind over analyzing things and overworking. And that's why it's so important to have that solitude, you know, that time alone, the time on your own, and also, you know, taking the time not to really make that decision right now, and kind of shutting off your mind a bit, because you really aren't going to make a clear decision right now with everything that's happening. If you don't need to make a decision right away, I would just kind of hold off on things, because things will improve and things will get better. It's just right now, there's just a lot of things that are happening that are changing day to day. And if you kind of get caught up in everything and your mind goes on overdrive, and, you know, constantly watching the news, and constantly, you know, being on social media, and, you know, basically caving into these posts, you know, and, you know, really like kind of getting pulled down. Your energy gets pulled down by these things. It's not going to do you any good. It's not going to do anything for you, you know, because it's got to be something that it's got to play out, and you got to get yourself into a better place so you can know what your role is going to be in this, moving forward in this situation. You know, when you are not so mind driven, and you come from a place of inspiration, and you come from a place more of peace to make a better decision, I think that is probably the best choice, I'm going to say, for sure. And I'm going to pick one more from this deck, and then I have a couple others, and then I'm going to probably sign off, because I don't know if anybody likes to watch these long videos, but so, sad embrace. Well, I know there's a lot of sadness out there, and I know there's a lot of uncertainty out there, and I know there's a lot of people feeling alone. Know that all of this is serving such a higher purpose right now. This will pass, and you're never alone. Sometimes things have to fall apart in order for things to be even better than before. And I don't want to be like philosophical about this kind of stuff, but it is an ending. Whether you truly know this or not, this is an ending of a lot of things. It's going to bring an ending to some people's personal lives in major ways. And again, I'm going to refer to my other video that I did. There's going to be a lot of relationships falling apart, especially marriages that weren't based in love. And I'm not saying every marriage, okay? And I'm not somebody who is for divorce. I'm not for marriage. I'm not for divorce. I am neutral, okay? I believe you should be with the person that you want to be with, that you truly love, okay? And if anything, this situation is going to bond you both, bond that, relationship. But there's going to be those who are, even if they are with another person or, whatever it is, they feel alone, they feel lonely. And my advice or my guidance would be the same as, take the time to do healing, take the time to, to really get to know yourself, because you aren't alone, and you won't feel alone, even if you were alone. Okay. Like, once this passes, it's not like we're not going to be around other people. I mean, you're going to be around other people. It's just taking that time. It's only been like a week or two, or, if you're in the United States, it's not been like a month or 2 months or a year. I mean, this is gonna pass, and there's gonna be a lot of changes, and it's gonna be difficult, and it is difficult right now. And I'm not saying that, but you know what? The greatest shifts and the greatest growth comes from overcoming challenges. And you can do this. You got this. You're able to. It's going to be okay. It may look different than before. It may look different, totally different than what your life was used to. But if you don't resist this change and what's happening, and, taking the time to do some of these things that I'm talking about, it's going to make things more difficult for you. So sometimes we have to hit rock bottom in order for us to really make a lot of progress of shifting and getting into a better place. It's like going through that painful divorce, having to split things up, and, a lot of emotions flying everywhere, and going to court and doing things, and, it can be very draining and, very difficult. But at the end of all of that, if you tapped into your truth and your power, and try to maintain that balance, then things are even better than before. Much better than before. So it's gonna be okay. I've said this. It's gonna be okay even if you don't feel okay. And it's okay to not feel okay. I want to make that clear as well. That feeling your emotions are so integral into healing them. Because if we avoid feeling our emotions because it makes us feel vulnerable or it's painful emotionally to feel some of those things. If you avoid that with alcohol or burying yourself at work or TV or other distractions, you will never heal. You will never heal it. And you will continue to be on that cycle of being unfulfilled. So I want to make that point that you have to feel these things, that it's okay to feel sad. It's okay. But at the end of the day, it's, you know, there's always another day. There's always a new day. And take things one day at a time. Don't look at the big picture yet. Don't look at, you know, what's your life going to look like in a month or 2 months or 6 months or a year from now. Live in the moment. You know, live in the time that you have right now, because that's really what matters. What matters is today, really. I mean, you can't change you could change what happens to you tomorrow by shifting your energy and getting into a better place. And I could put out another video about that, you know, of getting into that abundance. That takes time. That's a process. But you only have what you have today. If you worry yourself and concern about and have anxiety and concern yourself about what's going to happen in the future, you're missing the point. You're missing the mark. You're missing the time that you have today in order to make a difference in your own life and other people's lives, I should say. So this is another deck. I'm just going to see what else comes up. I'm so glad that I'm doing this and shuffling these cards and pulling these in front of you, because I don't make this stuff up. So it's grounding. Okay, it says, go deep, explore your roots. It's funny how, like, I'll talk about something and then it comes up in the card. I've said this, you know, and she's like by a tree, by this body of water here, so relaxed and so calm and so grounded. Reading a book, sitting down with the back up against the tree. I put a meditation about guided meditation on grounding. So hopefully that would help. But you'll get a lot of information when you're grounded as well. So if you might not know what I'm talking about right now because you don't feel grounded, you don't know, but I'm giving you ways to help you to be able to get to that better feeling place. But sometimes we have to dig. We got to dig up all that shit, all that dirt that's weighing us down. And that means it's called shadow work. It's called inner healing. It's called dark night of the soul. We go through it. You know, everybody who's been on this light work path, that has been on their journey for a while, has gone through it multiple times. I've gone through it multiple times. I've been on my hands and knees crying, begging the universe to set me free from this pain that I feel. It wasn't all fun and games and, look, it's all about love. No, because when you got all this emotion trapped inside your energy body, when you have all this trauma, when you have things that are inside of you that you've held on to, that you've suppressed, that you've repressed, things from your childhood that you might not even remember. And like I said, things from your wounds, from not only this past lifetime, if you believe in past lives, there's things that we've carried with us. Our soul never dies. So there are things that, have to be shed. There's things that have to come out in order for better to come. If those things are still inside your body, inside your energy body, there's not going to be room for the light energy to come in. So you have to be able to kind of dig that out and really take the time to feel that. If you want to cry, a few days ago, I cried and had no reason. Like, it was not like I didn't have a reason to cry. I mean, nothing personal because I feel grounded, but I've cried. I've cried for the world. I've cried for people. I transmute those energies and I help people like that. You know, that's what a lot of us light workers do. As quickly as it came on, it came off that quickly. So when I say I do energy work, it's not just for me. I do it for other people as well. And that's what I came here to do. That's my part. Not only being, in the medical field, doing anesthesia and doing this kind of work and helping people with, spiritual life coaching and channeling and guidance and Reiki healing and all this. I also do things behind the scene to help this earth ascend and to help all of humanity. And I'm not looking for a pat on the back, or I'm not saying this out of ego. A lot of us are doing this. So I just wanted you to know that if you might sometimes feel, especially if you're a sensitive being, you might feel like, sometimes you just want to cry. Do it. Just cry. Just feel whatever emotion comes up. It's okay. Because that's how we heal it. We have to release it. If we suppress it because we don't want to feel that because it feels like shit, then you're never going to get through it. And I was taught early on, got that channeled. I mean, I journal a lot. That's another thing is probably good for you. So if you could journal your emotions or journal anything that comes up. I also did a journaling that I got when I did a lot of inner child, like I said, inner child healing. So I wrote a letter to my child, and my child wrote a letter back to me. And a lot of things surfaced that I didn't even realize was inside of me. So there's so many different avenues and so many modalities for you to be able to do this. And I'll probably make another video if you guys are interested in stuff that can help you heal during this time. So I think what I wanted to say was, I don't even know what I was talking about just now. I get off on these tangents. I don't know. Okay, so, oh yeah, that you have to just kind of take things out of you that no longer belong there to fill it up with goodness, I call it. So, this one's in the flow. Everything is smooth sailing. So, you see like winter in the background, kind of like what that other card showed. Well, I feel like you have to just be in the flow and just go with the flow. And that kind of it's kind of just being in the moment and being in today, like I was talking about. Not resisting what's happening because it's meant to bring you to a new place. And being in the flow is being at peace with how things are happening, what's going on. And you just kind of go with the flow, and you base what you're going to do about it, your actions, on your inner guidance and being in a place of peace. But there's some things, like I said, you can't change. There's some things that in this world you can't change. And there's some things you can change and making a difference. So you got to let go of those things you cannot change. I think there's like a prayer about that. I think it's like, God grant me the serenity to accept what I cannot change, to change what I can, and to know the difference between the two, or something like that. It's very true. Because some things you just, you can't change, and to be able to let those things go that aren't in your control, you're going to find more peace doing so. All right, a couple more cards, and then I'm going to probably sign off. And you could probably, if you wanted to watch this video in parts, if you didn't have the time, although there's plenty of time now, right? And I can talk. I'm a Gemini, so I can talk. I didn't realize how much I could talk. I remember when I was like in first grade, I just kind of give you a background too. I grew up Catholic, and I went to parochial school for 12 years, and I remember I don't know. I just like to talk, and I didn't know I liked to talk. And the nun in first grade, she put pepper on my tongue and made me stand in front of the classroom because I was talking. I kind of, not even realizing I was a kid. I kind of was in my desk, went on my knees, and in the middle of her class, and started talking to the person behind me. Okay, not even realizing, having common sense that it's not what you're supposed to do, and she put pepper on my tongue and made me stand in front of the class. And that was not nice. That was not nice. But anyway, I'm not Catholic anymore, not because of that situation. I just recently converted to Judaism. So I find that I was more aligned with Jewish roots. I found, again, I didn't know that. It's kind of like been my journey, my steps, and I really, relate to Judaism, and I find that there's a lot of healing that I am doing for my ancestors. So I am doing a lot of that work as well, although this other stuff has taken precedence now over that. But I just recently converted right before all this happened. It was like, I don't know, it was the 11th, I think, of March 11th, before they mandated like quarantines and stuff. I was like in the mikveh and stuff. So I was like, man, that was just in time. Even though I felt in my heart I was Jewish, it was like just making it official. So very spiritually, very, very accepting, very, very spiritual religion to me. So I was very accepted. So, okay, I'm going to pull a couple more here. And then, okay, and we get intention. I feel like what this means is that they want you to also focus on an intention of what you want to see or what you want in your life or what you would like to have. And it's not coming from ego, okay, but coming from your soul of what it is that you would like in your life for yourself. And also what's happening in the world is of not focusing so much, and I've said this, not focusing so much on what you see out there, because that could bring your energy down. You have to know certain parts. You have to know certain things, of course, in order to follow guidelines and to know what's happening, especially, the things that you are, having to deal with on a professional level. But to kind of like continue, just like, I feel like I have this headache, continuously like looking at that stuff. It focuses you more on what you don't want to see. In energy work, we can shift this. We could shift this. We can be out of this a lot sooner rather than later if we have the right intentions of bringing peace to this and seeing that this is over sooner and that we spare as little lives as possible trying to get through this and coming together in unity and solving this in a heart-based way. I believe that that's what they want you to know, is that it's more important to have an intention of focusing what you want to see than what is actually out there. So praying for peace and health and prosperity and unity for our planet right now is better than focusing on death and what you see on the news. I just feel like that really can play a role in your energy and really kind of take you outside of yourself, because you're absorbing that again. And if you're not balanced enough to transmute it, and know the difference, then you're going to get sucked down and you're going to stay there, and it's going to be harder for you to even be present in the moment, and to be able to help your family, or to be able to help yourself, or be able to help others when you're working. You're going to be more, again, detail oriented, being in your mind, and it's not going to help you or anybody else really in the long run, because it's just too much. And also, like I said, is there's certain things that you're going to see out there that you may read or you may see that really there's no control. You don't have control over certain things. So you're concerning yourself with things that are not even that aren't even going on. They'll say, oh, it's a possibility that this will happen. Oh, these people are discussing this. Oh, this might happen. Well, whatever. Okay? Like, really, whatever. How does that really, like, how is that going to help you? Like, just know, when you're focusing on something and you're putting your energy there, you're giving it more energy. You're feeding it. Like, it's like throwing gasoline on the fire, you know? That's kind of what the vision that I just got. Like, we don't want any more of this. Like, let's stop, you know, anything that's kind of making us feel bad, like, we should just stop looking at it. So, and we get signs. I feel like a lot of people are getting signs. I've been getting signs before. When I started my journey, I was seeing 1111, 111, 22222, all these consecutive numbers. The numbers were out of control, okay? Out of control. I had to like look things up all the time. This is awakening, okay? This is a spiritual awakening. It's saying pay attention to the signs. You're going to have synchronicities happening to you. You're gonna see a person's name all the time. You're gonna see, like, you know, if you come across your true love, you're going to run into them, you know, out of the blue. You're gonna see different signs. You're gonna get things in your dreams. You're gonna find that information is gonna come to you. And if you've seen those repeating numbers and you've kind of ignored it and say that's a coincidence, think again, because everybody is going through this. Everybody's going through Ascension. Everybody's going through this. Some have already started it, you know, back, like a big wave of people going through Ascension started in 2012. There's been other waves since then, but this is the big push. This is the big one. So paying attention to the signs is very crucial. And they want you to not blow it off like it's a coincidence. You know, maybe something you were thinking about and then it happens. You're going to start to get more intuitive. You're going to start getting those things. You know, because we live in this physical dimension. We're more grounded or more based naturally in the physical, which is more logical, and the mind the mind. And when we spiritually awaken, we're awakening more of our intuition and listening to guidance. And eventually you'll be able to get all that stuff and tap into it. And it guides you. You know, I mean, there's some days where I'll pull my own cards, you know, all the time. I do. And it's so eerily accurate. I'll just like sometimes pull things for the day just to see, okay, I'm just going to like, you know, I have nothing to do. Let me just pull a couple cards. What's going to happen today? And it happens. And I'm like, okay. So yeah, you'll be tapped into that as well. And you'll be able to, you know, and I'm not saying I need cards all the time because I don't. I find this is a very good way for me to get, it's kind of like a channel for me of the cards. It's kind of like that you know, that bridge. They talk to me through these cards. And again, like anybody can pull cards, but they don't get the information. And sometimes people can pull cards and they're not intuitive or tapped into spirit. So it's just a matter of pulling cards and reading them and what a card's meaning is. But it's really more than that. And I think you probably saw that I was saying a lot of information and then the card came out. So that's a sign. And you'll be able to get all this stuff. Okay. It wasn't like overnight for me, but I do feel like a lot of us have already gone through this, kind of paved the way for other people that are just starting to go through this. So it shouldn't take you 8 years to do this, you know, to get yourself in a better place. And I know there's really time is relative, but I really feel like a lot of people are going to, it won't take as long to get to a balanced state of, you know, balancing, you know, your intuition with your mind, you know, and getting the information. But I have to say, I'm not driven from my mind anymore. I mean, once in a while I might get sucked in and I might get into ego, and that's why it's extremely important to ground. But most often I do follow my guidance, and sometimes I don't even know why I'm doing something and I just do it, and it was the right thing to do for me. So I'll pull one more card out of this deck, and I think I'll call it a day. Maybe we'll do it like it'll be an hour long. All right, anything else that Spirit wants to share about anything? We just said this. Spiritual growth. This is pushing for that growth. This is pushing. You are growing. Whether you even know it or not, you are spiritually evolving. You are growing into, ascending into your energy vibration and coming into a knowing of there's more to life than what you see right here in this dimension. There's more to life than what you've been taught. The life that we have, of course, is temporary. You know, we're souls having a human experience. And if you thought it was the other way around, I think you're gonna start to get triggered into your awakening. You know, it's not about your status. It's not about the money. It's not about what other you care about what other people think about you. It's not any of that stuff. It's what's in your heart. It's how you feel about yourself. It's how connected you are. And how connected you are, you will be connected to everybody else. You will feel that love for everybody else. You will feel that union with everybody else. You'll see the beauty and the magnificence in every single thing. You know, whether it's in nature, whether it's other people, even if people are acting, you know, people act out of their level of consciousness. You know, they really do. So sometimes you have to step back and realize that this, whatever is going on and whatever they're doing or saying is not about you. It really is more of a reflection about themselves and what they feel about themselves, but it's coming out in their words or their actions. That's all coming, that's all changing. That's all going to change because we're all connected. And the more people that are going through this growth process, the more we pull everybody else up. So I feel like it's a done deal. I know I said I wasn't going to pull anymore, but I'll see what else. And these are really like regular tarot cards. This is the Four of Cups. Four of Cups kind of represents boredom and things that you aren't emotionally satisfied with. Things that are maybe in your life that you actually have these things, but you're really not emotionally fulfilled from it. It's been comfortable for a lot of people. It's been, you know, a lot of times people get in their comfort zones and then they don't really grow after that because they're kind of content. But content is not joyful. It's not being in love and passionate and embracing all of life and seeing the beauty around you and things be so much more vibrant. It's just kind of being, you know, it is what it is. Kind of that kind of feeling. But there's that one cup up here. It's like there's this one cup up here that's kind of the big cup that's floating up there. And that's being offered to you. It's being offered to you. It's your spiritual growth is bringing that cup to you. So you're not bored and you're not just in your comfort zone and you're not just doing something just half-ass, you know. You're not just doing things for other people either. You're not just like being a martyr. You are here to live your life on point. You are here to live your fullest and best life. You're not here to just be a pawn and live for other people. Yes, we all have responsibilities. Yes, we have children. Yes, I have a son. And I've taken care of my son. And he is well-adjusted, well-balanced, and very grounded. And I went through divorce. So people telling me that they're, you know, how is this going to affect their kids? They can't do X, Y, and Z because of the family. That's bullshit. Just saying. That's just bullshit because that's an excuse. If I can do it, so can you. So anybody can do it. It's just a matter, it's your mind kind of trying to figure out all those details. If you just silence that mind and kind of get into a better place, you will know, you'll get that inspiration to do what you got to do. But anyway, you're getting pushed to that. So this is the world card. It's almost the end of the cycle. It's a new world. It's a new beginning. It's where, you know, people are going to feel less vulnerable to be themselves. People are going to, and again, she's like, you know, walking on top of the earth or the planet or whatever. She's more tapped into her intuition, her feminine energy. But she's also, if you see, it's weird. If you see these things that are kind of attaching her feet, it's almost like roots. She's grounded. So you're both grounded to the earth because you're living here, but you're also tapped into spirit. And the light is coming down. So this light is here. It is here. And it's awakening. And I feel like we do have a lot of help, you know, from the other side that are helping us to get through this time. Being more carefree and more light. Coming to that place where we're, again, we don't have to be somebody who we were taught that we had to be. We're going to be ourselves. And I would tell you, like, I would never have done this before. I would have been afraid that people would have thought I was a freak. And you know what? There's going to be those people who are going to think that about me anyway, no matter what. And I don't really care. I don't care because I know who I am and I'm secure with myself. And I know how I feel. And I know I've helped so many people. So I will continue being the person that I'm evolving to. And I'll continue to be that wild spirit, that child. And I think they wanted me to share this too, that child that you were when you were younger. If you can remember a time when you were a child that before you started getting in trouble and being told that you weren't allowed to do something or you were, you know, put in your place because, and I'm not saying you were doing something dangerous, but, you know, even like, you know, speaking out about something or, you know, you wanted your freedom and doing things. And I know certain things like, that's probably not a good example. I remember when I was a kid, my mother told me this, that I would get out of my playpen all the time. They had this playpen for me. And I would find a way of getting out because I hated to be confined. I hated to not have my freedom. And I remember always like being, you know, I was dragged out to the store, the clothes store, I'd be like underneath things, and you know, those things of the, you know, the clothes, you know, hangers or whatever, the racks of clothing, I'd be like going under there and getting lost and stuff. And I remember she probably, like, I remember kind of getting like in really bad trouble because, you know, he was hearing my name overhead. And I probably like was like, I don't know, 5 or something like that. I remember going into the men's, oh my gosh, this is bad. But this is the kind of wild spirit I was, okay? I couldn't help it. The dressing rooms, you know, like the old dressing rooms, the way they were is that they were like in the middle of nowhere, and then you had the space, I guess, like, I don't know, a foot or two underneath the doors. Oh, I think I remember looking through, you know, somebody getting changed. I don't think I ever really saw anything though when I was a kid. I just remember being in the men's dressing room. So I don't know, I was curious. It's the curiosity. Curiosity B is curious as a kid. And if you can kind of tap into that spark of being so curious and intrigued and like want to have fun and making things more light sometimes, you know, I'm gonna say you try to do that all the time, even at work. I try to be light, you know, and depending on my mood, you know, I mean, you got to have fun, because if it's all work and no play, you're never going to be balanced. So I don't even know what took me there, but I think it's, you know, working on, that's also part of healing, and balancing your inner healing with doing things that make you feel good, that, you know, feel light to you, that feel fun to you, that you desire, you know, the love, the passion, something you have passion for. When I started going through my awakening process, I took on a new hobby. I started acting. Who knew? I mean, I was like on Channel 10, you know, like who knew? You know, and a commercial and music videos and stuff like that. I mean, it's just crazy how life took me there. And I challenged myself, you know. I love doing that stuff. I love, you know, acting and feeling emotions and being a person that I'm really not. You know, it actually helped me uncover a lot of emotions that were buried underneath me, because I was never allowed to feel anger as a kid. You know, I wasn't allowed to. You know, whenever I got angry, I was shut down. So I remember doing the first time I was up in New York, and we had to get up on this stage. It was Sedgwick Russell Acting Studio. I went there for a while. And this was already after I had some gigs. I started saying, okay, well, I like, you know, I like doing this, so I'm going to go. I remember doing this one part with this guy, and I forget what it was from, which movie it was from, but I remember I was really mad. I was really mad for whatever reason. I remember taking my ring off and just tossing it across that stage, and I was so mad. And I was like, actually, I caught myself. And that's when I first started. I was like, oh, why didn't I catch myself? I didn't really go through it. I wish I went through it, but I caught myself because I was like, I was going to say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But it was not real. But these were things, it was so real to me because these were things that were suppressed. That emotion was suppressed inside of me. It just took something like that for me to get it out. And it was a healthy way of doing it, because it's not like I was hitting anybody. And I think like the first time I did that, I were like, wow, you know, and you could tap into that. You could tap into those things. So taking on a new hobby, taking on something that maybe you're guided to do. Did a lot of painting before, you know, and I still paint, you know, that kind of was very grounding and that's like a form of meditation, you know, doing a painting. They have those YouTube paintings, paint on, but you know, I got canvases and got different paints and would, you know, you can go somewhere and do it. You could do it in your home. It might be an idea for you, you know, during this time is to paint your pictures. I got pictures of things I painted all throughout my house. And they actually turned out pretty good, I have to say. So that's something else that maybe you might want to do. So anyway, I'm going to pick one more and then I'm going to sign off, I think. Because my throat's starting to get irritated from talking. All right. All right. It's a 9 of Wands. So wand energy is very like a lot of, it's more like passion, your work, your job. It could be something that ignites your passion, like a hobby, like I just talked about. And the 9 is kind of near completion. So the 10, this only goes up to 10 for each suit. So it's like finishing something, you know, maybe it's the ending of a certain job that you've had, or a certain something that kind of kept you there, and removing something to bring you to a new place, either professionally or, you know, finishing something up that you were doing, a project or something. Maybe this could be for those people who are working on something, working on a project, finishing up on that, or also getting ready to do something new. So it's kind of bringing you to that place that is going to give you something, a new beginning in something. I'm going to pull one more just to kind of get. Oh, I just talked about the stage. The 3 of Pentacles. And I don't sometimes read these cards for what they mean in the book. I'll just read. I just kind of like we'll tell you what I get from it. I feel like this is you know, again, it's being in the spotlight and being comfortable and being okay with that, and shining light onto those shadows, onto those places that you were uncomfortable with. And this brings me to being on that stage, of being in that place of, it was uncomfortable. I'm going to say it was uncomfortable. And I know why it was uncomfortable, because when I was a kid, I remember being up on that stage. I had to go to Polish school. And I remember being up on that stage, and I remember forgetting my lines or something. We were saying something in Polish and I forgot my lines, and I was criticized by a teacher in front of everybody, in front of the whole audience. I was a kid. That affected me, you know, affected my self-esteem. And I kept it inside of me because I thought I deserved it. And I didn't deserve it. I think that we should be encouraging our children. But I was very afraid. I was afraid to be up on that stage when I first started. I was afraid to get up. I might forget my line or something. But guess what? I think you get more out of it by not having to memorize every single line and doing what other people want you to do. I think you get more out of it, and I think that you would be more real as if you do some improv and said what was in your heart. You know, you have a general framework and guideline, okay, but you don't have to memorize every single word, because that's really more logical. You really can't get into a role. You can't play your role. And also talked about roles and playing things and being on stage on my last video. Not being on stage, but like a screenplay. It's weird how it's all connected. It's not weird. There's no accidents, it's a sign. But being comfortable and getting yourself, you can't get comfortable until you do it. You got to do what scares you the most. You got to do what you fear the most. Because that's the only way you'll heal, and that's the only way you'll really bridge those passions. See, like, she's already taken a bow. I don't know, like, she's bowing. She's got, like, you know, she's got these flowers that are at her feet. This is bringing you into the spotlight and bringing you to where you were supposed to be. And people will acknowledge you and give you those flowers and give you gifts and shower you with abundance. You will be showered not only by people, but by the universe. If you stop allowing fear to take over you and start living from your heart and living what brings you passion. Okay, so I'm going to sign off. I thank you for listening to me. I hope that helps. Feel free to comment on maybe things that you want me to talk about in the future. But I feel like I just sometimes not having an agenda it's just I get inspirations and I'll get things to talk about, you know, and if you are, if you're my friend and you know me, there's never a shortage of things to talk about with me. And I do know how to have fun. That's one thing I know. Like I know how to have fun. I'm not just the hermit. Not anymore. I do like to go into my hermit mode though sometimes. I do a lot of stuff like that. But I do also, now I can balance the two because I feel a lot of times when I'm more balanced in my energy and I have enough time for myself, which I've been off since last Wednesday. I've had a lot of time. So I'm able to do this kind of work and be able to give you some of my energy because my cup is full. Fill your cup. Okay. All right, guys, I love you and stay healthy, stay well, stay protected. If you need help, personal assistance or anything like that, feel free to reach out to me. I'll leave my contact information below this video. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. You feel free to take time to look through my articles that I posted on my website. Yeah, just take care of yourselves, okay? Again, it's going to be all right. We're going to get through this together, all right? I'm going to help. Whichever way I can help, I will help. And we will come out of this in a bigger and better world, and we will look at this one day and say, wow, I can't believe we did this. We got through this, and life looks so much better now. Okay. Love you guys.